Hey guys, welcome. This is Deepika from MyTutorialRack.com. Now, in the previous tutorial, we created an auth provider, and through that auth provider, we provided the client ID and the client secret of our source system. And now what we need to do is we need to create our name credential, and in order to create name credential, we will also set up our external credentials. Okay, so we'll go over to the quick find here, and I'm going to go to the name credential first. And here, if I try to create a new name credential, you will see it is asking me for an external credential first. Okay, and there is an old way of the legacy way of creating a name credential, and that's not what we're going to do. We will go ahead and use the new way of creating a name credential. So first, we are going to set up our external credentials. Okay, now external credentials are basically used for two things: to set up what protocol, what is the authentication protocol. We have OAuth 2.0, and you can also decide on your flow. Are you going to be using a browser flow, or you're going to be using a JWT flow? So you can decide on that. And also through external credential, you can set up authorization, and we will use principal to set up that authorization part. So here I'm going to say employee app source. Okay, and here the name I'm going to use is employee app source credential, and the protocol I'm going to choose is going to be OAuth 2.0, and the flow type, we have two options, JWT and a browser flow. We're going to go with the browser flow here. Scope I'm not providing at this point, and it is asking me for a auth provider, and we have already created a Salesforce auth provider in the previous tutorial. And now we will go ahead and hit the save. So I have created my external credential here. And the next thing is, now I can go ahead and create a name credential. So I'll click on new here. Till this point, we have not specified the URL of our system that we are going to hit, right? The source system. We have not specified the URL of the source system. So this is where we are going to provide the URL of the source system. So what we did previously was we provided our source system the URL of the client application, that hey, this is the system from which you can expect a call. And that URL, we provided it in the callback URL settings of the connected app in our source system. Now we need to tell our client application the URL of the source system that they have to hit, right? So here I'm going to say source system credentials. This is where I'm going to provide it. And then the name is employee source system credentials. Okay. And the URL, now we have to provide the URL of our source application. So we'll go ahead and log in to our source application, which is which one? This is our source application. So this is the URL. I'm going to go ahead and copy it and hit the login here. And over here, you will go over to my domain. So do not copy this URL. We are interested in the my domain URL, and that is the URL you will be providing on our client application. So here, this is the URL I'm going to copy, and we will go here and we'll say https:// and then we are going to provide the URL. External credential, I have this as the external credential. We are not using any client certificate. We will leave everything as it is, and then we will hit the save button. This is the authentication part that you have done. Now, the next important thing is authorization part, right? So authorization tells you, after you have been authenticated, are you the right individual who should be able to see this data? Because an employee data can contain a lot of confidential information, right? It can have your SSN number, it can have your salary information, it will have your address information, it will have your email information, and you don't want everybody to have access to that data, and you don't want everybody to make the call out. So you want to have some restrictions around who is authorized to make that call, right? And that we can do through principal. So here, under the external credential, we are going to set up a principal. Okay, so here under the principal, we are going to click the new next to it, and we are going to call it as authorized access to employee source. Okay, and here identity type, I'm going to use name principal, and then we are not setting up any scope. Hit the save here. Okay, so this is my principal that I've created. Now I'm going to create a dummy permission set. So if you do not do this, right, if you do not do this part, if you don't create a permission set, you will not be able to make a call out. You're going to get an error. So this permission set, even though it is dummy, basically you are telling that, hey, we have this authorization implemented, okay, and through this permission set, and whoever has access to the permission set, only those will be allowed to make the call out. Okay, so here I'll go and click on permission sets. We'll go and go to the permission sets, and we'll create a dummy permission set. Through this permission set, I'm not giving any access or anything. I'm just creating a permission set here, and we will call it as access to external app. Okay, and license is none. Hit the save here. So this is your permission set that you have created, and we are going to give this permission set to whom? We are going to give the permission set to myself, because I'm the one who will be making the call out, right? So only give this permission set to the individuals who will be making the call out, not to everybody, right? So through permission set, we are setting up the authorization. So, and another thing we have to do is, if we go down, we're going to do the external credential principal access. Okay, permissions to authenticate with external credential principal mapping. So anybody who has this permission set, that application will be able to make the call out. So here I'm going to go ahead and add this particular external credentials with this permission set. Okay, so what we are saying is, anybody who has this permission set will be able to access this external credentials. Okay, and we are going to hit the save here, and at the same time we are going to give this permission set to ourselves, because we will be the one making the call. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the add assignment, and from this list of user I'm going to choose the system admin, and we're going to hit the next here, and that's it, assign, and it never expires. So what we have done here is, we created an external credential. Through external credential, we specified our protocol. We are using OAuth. We specified our flow. It's the browser flow that we are going to be using instead of the JWT token flow. And then we created a name credential, and in the name credential, we provided the URL of that external system, which we will be hitting. Okay, and external system already has the URL of our client application, and we pasted that URL in the callback URL. So basically both the systems now know about each other. Now here I will go back to my name credential. So we'll go to the name credentials here, and we'll click on external credentials, and we'll click here. And if you scroll under the principal and under the actions, right now you are not configured. Authentication status is not configured. The moment you hit authenticate, it is going to pop your this login screen. And this is the screen you will be providing the information for your source application, your source system username. Okay, because we are authenticating ourselves, right? So we have to provide the source system username and password, and this is exactly what we did in the case of Postman. If you remembered, in the case of Postman, we are providing the client ID, client secret, and username and password, and up till this point we have not provided username and password anywhere, right? So this is where you have to provide the username and password of your source system, or you can call it as your external system. So here I'm going to provide it, and now hit the login. Now let's see what it is telling. Now we are getting an error. It is telling you OAuth error, and if you want to know what the error is, you have to look at the URL. It is telling you remote access error page, invalid scope. So the scope is where the problem is. The requested scope is not allowed. So the reason you're getting this error is somewhere in your connected app, the way that the connected app that you have created in the source system, the scopes are not properly defined. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to log in to my source system, my external system. So this is what I'm going to log in here, and I will go over to App Manager in my source system. Source system is where the employee HR data resides. So I will go to the App Manager, and under the App Manager, we will look for our employee HR system, and we will click the View button, and we are going to do an edit. So I'm going to, for the timing, we will make sure we are going to move all this access to the right. Okay, so we are pretty much giving all the OAuth scopes here, and we have already given a full access. Full access is kind of looks like full access, but it's not actually full access. Perform request at any time, segmentation, all of this we are going to add into our selected OAuth scopes, and hit the save here, continue. So wait few seconds before you try to authenticate yourself again, because it takes this whole system to set up with this new scope. It takes some few minutes. So go grab a cup of coffee, take some break, and then come over. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to cancel out, and we will again try to authenticate ourselves. Okay, so here I'm going to close my source systems, and we are logged in back to our client application. And here in the name credentials, we will go to the external credentials tab, and here I'm going to click on label. And now we will try to authenticate ourselves again. So once we do that, it is asking you for your username password. So this is our source app credential. So it already has it, and we are going to hit the login. And now you see allow access. So it's asking, do you want to allow access for this? Yes. So we are basically saying employee HR system, which is our client application, is asking to access the identity URL service. So do you want to give that? We are going to hit the allow. And if you remember, the same kind of message comes when you're trying to access Zoom application through your Gmail account, or your Facebook application through your Gmail, or Instagram through your Gmail, right? So that's the same way. So this time we have chosen Salesforce as our auth providers. So we're going to go ahead and hit the allow here, and we are asking for all the access. Now we got it. Okay. So we are successfully authenticated. So now if you go back to your here, if you see, you will see it shows configured. So everything looks good so far. We have set up our auth provider. We have given access to the application, all of that. Now we have to work on that flow, which will actually be making the call out to that employee HR system. Okay. So how to do that, we are going to talk about in the next video. I'm going to see you then. Thank you so much.